Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm George,
And I'm Alexa.
and today we're gonna watch
The Cold War
the aftermath of World War II, the Cold War,
oversimplified.
oversimplified
Part
for
one.
dummies, part one. For dummies, part one. Let's see what our leaders, their decision got us into, and their because we know what happened after the World War II. We had almost 40 years of Cold War. Yeah,
40.
40 years.
And I think I heard something at the news about still some Cold War, but I'm don't
Yeah, we're
not
still
sure
in
about.
something, the arms race and different.
I'm not sure about which
They're trying to
countries.
poke each other to see which one is the better, the best. The moon landing, the arms race. They all,
That is all
yeah,
part
they
of.
are trying to see, to show off which superpower is better.
And that's the Cold War about them. I mean,
Um,
that means Cold War.
Oversimplified. No, they were arms race. The nuclear missile crisis in Cuba.
Makes now it makes sense.
Yeah. The countless time that somebody pushed the red button by mistake. We were so many times close to the to a nuclear winter. A lot of times by mistake because different things. It's more complicated.
Let's
But it's
see
really interesting.
the
Yeah,
oversimplified version.
just see the quick version. Let's enjoy.
Part one.
The year is 1917. Fighting rages on the Eastern Front of the First World War. Both Germany and Russia are on the brink of collapse. Soldier,
recap,
I need you to bring me this man. Got it. Found him, sir. No, not Lenin. Lenin, the Russian communist. What? Why would I need a beetle? Lenin, the Russian communist. He was exiled to Switzerland. You know what? I'll do it myself.
Okay, good one.
Capitalist by Karl
Who wants
Marx.
to start a revolution?
Yes, sir.
The Germans put Lenin on a train and sent him all the way back to Russia, hoping he and his mates would create an internal crisis. And create an internal crisis they did. The government was overthrown, and Lenin was in charge. He immediately pulled out of the First World War, made the country communist, started a 3-year-long civil war, got shot, broke the economy, caused a famine, and then he died. On his deathbed he
And
said,
then he died.
"Hey man, tell whoever's in charge of giving people jobs not to let that jerk Stalin become the next leader." By the way, who did I put in charge of giving people jobs? That would be Stalin, sir. Stalin was a rising force in the Communist Party. He still had some opponents, but conveniently, all of them were arrested or disappeared. So that was lucky. And so Stalin
know
took over.
how.
He implemented his 5-year plans, which transformed the country from an agriculture-based economy to an industrial one. And like Lenin before him, he reigned with terror. Anyone who dared criticize or oppose him would either be killed or left to rot in the horrendous Soviet work camps. Then a short man with a silly mustache tried to take over the world, punched the Russians all the way to Moscow, and then the Russians, with some help from their faithful ally, the Winter, punched them all the way back to Berlin. At this point, being allies, America, the UK, and the Soviet Union were good chums. They held a couple of conferences near the end of the war to decide what would happen next. Hey Stalin, after all your trials and tribulation, you must be pretty happy to be standing here in Berlin. Tsar Alexander made it all the way to Paris.
Yeah.
Hey, just give me a second.
Oh my god.
Hey man, I think something's up with Stalin. I know, right? What should we do? Shall I tell him about the bomb? Yeah, tell him about the bomb. That will scare him. So, we got this crazy new big A-bomb that can destroy an entire city in one go. Yes, my spies told me already. Oh wait, I meant to act surprised. Wow, that's amazing. He already knew. How? Am I
Spies.
sure I want to send nuclear secrets via unsecure public coffee shop Wi-Fi? Am I ever? Dude, use a VPN. And speaking of VPNs, if, like me, you
Yeah.
take internet safety
Okay,
seriously,
that's
then you
the
need
It's
on your
fast
person
forward.
62 just
We
a
all
click of a
know
button
what's
that's specific locked in
all
your
about.
But
country.
that was
Go to
funny.
NordVPN 9 per month. Simplified. Does the A stand for atomic or ass? Then America dropped their big A-bomb on Japan, and World War II officially came to an end. Hooray, we won! Okay, so now it's time to establish the New World Order. Stalin, you're in charge of Eastern Europe. Now, we want you to let them all hold elections. Oh yes, of course, elections. And these elections will be free and fair, right? Oh yes, certainly, free and fair. Definitely free and fair. Communist, 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 communist. If that's not free and fair, I don't know what is. Throughout Eastern Europe, Soviet puppet governments were established as a buffer zone between the USSR.
Sorry, that was funny.
They were stories from our grandparents when the communists came to power in our country that the communists, when the elections were held, the communists always congratulated people who voted for the Communist Party. And people were wondering how they know that I voted for the Communist Party or not. Because there was some guy in the attic sprinkling flour on people who voted for the communists. And that's how they knew that they voted for the communists or not.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's silly.
So the elections were really fair.
Especially free.
Yeah, and free, yeah.
I know that.
And the West, with Churchill proclaiming an Iron Curtain had descended across the continent. The relationship between the old allies was deteriorating fast. Over the next few years, the British intervened in the Greek Civil War to prevent a communist takeover. In Turkey, the Russians began demanding more control of Turkey's sea access routes, which prompted the US to send their largest battleship to Turkey for a friendly visit. After World War II, Iran was now occupied by both the Soviets and the British, with an agreement to both pull out once the war was over. The British pulled out. Stalin was like, you know what? I think I might stick around. All in favor of kicking Russia out of Iran? You want to know something? You guys suck. Pressure from the UN forced the Soviets to leave, and with the establishment of NATO, the Soviets had no doubt that the West was out to encircle and destroy them. And America announced the Truman Doctrine, in which they basically said, those guys are not cool, cannot be trusted, and we will do everything we can to prevent the spread of communism around the world. Many viewed this moment as the official declaration of the Cold War.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Știm că stai cu mouse-ul pe butonul acela, dar avem nevoie de ajutorul tău. Avem un buton mai bun. Promitem. Fix.
Back in Europe, everyone was living in a post-apocalyptic void brought on by the...
Say?
this time Truman was president. Roosevelt died.
And
It
which
doesn't
was the
matter.
Truman Doctrine?
That was the next president after Roosevelt.
Okay.
of the Cold War. Back in Europe, everyone was living in a post-apocalyptic void brought on by the Second World War. Cities reduced to rubble, not enough food. It was terrible. This is great. The more they suffered, the more likely it is they'll turn to communism. Dude, you're really messed up. What's wrong with you? My father used to punish me severely. America realized what was going on and quickly made a move. Under the Marshall Plan, they sent $12 billion to Western Europe for its economic recovery. The countries of Stalin's Eastern Bloc looked on with envy. Hey, Czechoslovakia, you want to come get some economic aid? Yeah, but I have to check with my mom first. Sorry, America. I can't come. This was a full-on economic battle raging between capitalism and communism in Europe. If the Western nations developed faster and better than the East, that would be a defeat for Stalin. So he set up his own rival economic recovery plan, which he called Comecon, and he also set up Cominform, which gave him more political control over the Eastern Bloc. But nowhere did this economic battle rage harder than in the city of Berlin. Caught over 100 miles behind Soviet lines, the city had been divided up between the Allies, and the western segments were still under Western control. East Berliners could travel freely to West Berlin, see the economic prosperity and think, maybe this communism thing ain't so great after all. I'm gonna have fun tonight. You're home late. Oh, Stalin. I was just out with my friends. Friends? You stink of capitalism! You're out engaging in imperialist debauchery again! I swear, Ivan, I can't keep doing this. Stalin wanted the West out, so he said, hey, guess what? I'm blockading all of your supply routes to West Berlin. What are you gonna do about it? I suppose we'll just fly the supplies in. All right, Truman. You win this round. The Berlin airlift was an incredible undertaking and a major success for the Western Allies, and Stalin ended his blockade of West Berlin. His aggressive actions worried the West, but not as much as this did.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union had developed their very own atomic bomb. The USA no longer had a nuclear monopoly. The world now knew that if a major war broke out between the two superpowers, it would be more destructive than
they got the nuclear bomb. Under that, Russia was you could keep Russia under control, threatening it with the atomic bomb. But after they got it,
When they
yeah,
later got the
they created their first atomic bomb.
The world now knew that if a major war broke out between the two superpowers, it would be more destructive than anyone could imagine. So it was comforting when Stalin came out and said that war between the Soviet Union and the West was unlikely. Oh, wait, inevitable. He said it was inevitable. Hey,
Yeah.
you know who I haven't checked in on in a while? My good friend China. Whoa, what happened to you? What happened to them was a full-blown civil war that had been going on since 1927. The People's Liberation Army, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, successfully defeated the Republic of China, who fled to Taiwan. The now communist China and the Soviet Union signed a mutual defense treaty.
Yeah, now I understand that actually Taiwan is the former government of China.
yeah.
The former democratic government of China.
Oh, and that's why they want it back.
They wanted it back, yeah.
Nice,
So
nice.
actually you could say there are two governments for China. I'm gonna get a China ban, am I? For sure.
Oh my god.
Gonna get banned in China.
Of China, who fled to Taiwan. The now communist China and the Soviet Union signed a mutual defense treaty. This was terrible news for the West. But wait, there's more. After the Second World War, Korea was divided along the 38th parallel. In the north, the Soviets set up a communist regime. In the south, America set up an anti-communist regime. Both were led by very sweet-looking old men, but don't let that deceive you. They were
They're
both
not in South
ruthless
Korea,
dictators,
right?
and both dreamed of reuniting Korea under their own regime. Now that he had the bomb, Stalin was feeling a little more cocky, and he finally gave Kim permission to attack. The North launched a surprise invasion of the South on June 25th, 1950. With Soviet aid, the North Koreans steamrolled through, taking Seoul in just 3 days and replacing one ruthless dictator with another. The UN were freaking out and quickly created an emergency force made up of troops from 16 countries to defend the South. The West still held Busan and made landings at Incheon near Seoul. They pushed the North Koreans out of Seoul, replacing the ruthless dictator that had replaced the first ruthless dictator with the same ruthless dictator that had previously been replaced by the new ruthless dictator. And the West then
Fuck
continued all
happened
the way up
there?
the Korean Peninsula. At this point, China was getting worried that the UN may just keep going. The US had sent this guy to lead the operation. After winning the Pacific theater of World War II, General Douglas MacArthur's head was big and his balls were bigger. He reassured President Truman that there was absolutely no way at all that the Chinese would ever get involved. Meanwhile, 500,000 Chinese troops were
Remember, he had the emperor sign a peace treaty with him. The emperor of Japan, who was considered the god.
Oh,
So
that's why he
he
had the balls.
big, yeah, big.
Oh my, but
crossing into Korea.
sorry, but this is so funny the way that he explains.
Yeah, massive
And he
ego.
got cocky.
Yeah. So if he
Sorry.
actually wanted to nuke them.
Anyway,
Nuke 'em.
like
No. Nuke 'em. No. Ah, come on. You're fired. The US considered the nuclear option, but now that the Soviets also had the bomb, they didn't want to risk all-out global destruction. The communists pushed the West right back almost to the exact same spot they had all started from, and they ended up in a stalemate, where they remained until both sides finally agreed to work towards a peace settlement in
oh my god. Ew, 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 ew.
Yeah, the TV series Smash is about the
I
Korean
saw it.
War.
I think shuffled.
Oh my god!
Sorry
Go on.
for the commercial.
2018.
Yeah.
Back in America, Americans decided they wanted a new president who would be tough on communism, so they elected famed World War II General Eisenhower, who is really hard to draw. It's 1953. Hey Stalin, how you doing? Oh, he's dead. He had
Wait, what was that?
He's really hard to draw.
And why he
Eisenhower.
had to earforms? What happened there? Why did he look like
It's
that?
really hard to draw as an animation.
To draw.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
It's 1953. Hey Stalin, how you doing? Oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
He had a cerebral hemorrhage and his reign of terror kinda came back to bite him in the ass because he had imprisoned all of his best doctors and those that were left were too terrified to treat him. The new leader, Nikita Khrushchev,
The movie Death of Stalin. Yeah. We saw the movie.
No, we saw
we
the
enjoyed
movie.
it. Although it's a parody of what actually happened, but
It seems real
yeah,
though.
yeah, I believe it.
More real than
I
they
really believe
intended.
it. So even if it's a parody or exaggerated, I do believe that they acted like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
All of his best doctors, and those that were left, were too terrified to treat him. The new leader, Nikita Khrushchev, called a meeting and said, "Hey guys, you know how Stalin was imprisoning and murdering us all for doing basically nothing? Yeah, he was kind of a jerk. I'm really not sure how this is news to you." Khrushchev went on a campaign of
Yeah.
de-Stalinization. Statues of Stalin were taken down, Stalingrad was renamed, and Khrushchev announced that he wanted the Soviet people to be happy and would allow greater freedom in the Soviet Union. So how did that work out? Well, an
Not
uprising
good.
in East Germany was brutally suppressed, a revolution in Hungary was brutally suppressed, and demonstrations in Poland were brutally suppressed. Although he did finally allow some mild reforms. Back in the Soviet Union, he permitted more cultural expression, but then began banning stuff based on his own personal taste. Modern art looks like a child urinated on a canvas. Banned. Jazz music sounds like the feeling of needing to fart. Banned. Your poetry is really depressing. How could anyone in the Soviet Union be depressed? You're banned. Khrushchev wanted the Soviet people to be happy, but not like that. Or that. Or that. Young people began enjoying abhorrent Western pop culture. Son, remove that disgusting imperialist apparel at once. Shut up, Dad. You can't tell me what to do. Well, would you look at that? Turns out he can tell me what to do. The West had initially liked the cut of Khrushchev's jib, but world events soon soured relations even more. The two sides were spying on each other a whole lot throughout the Cold War. The KGB had spies and informants in nearly every aspect of Western life and government, so much so that whenever the US tried to send spies into the Soviet Union, the KGB were usually ready to arrest them on the spot. Members of the Manhattan Project aided the Soviet Union in acquiring the bomb. Some American officials believed they were on the wrong side. I'll sell you 3 secrets for $5 million. Okay. Go ahead. The Allies are digging a tunnel under East Berlin to tap your communications. There's an American agent living at this address in Moscow, and sometimes, when I'm home alone, I like to put on my wife's dresses, sit in the corner, and cry for hours. Very interesting. In America, fear took hold during the Red Scare and the McCarthy trials. American values imploded as fear of communism collided with freedom.
What was the McCarthy trials?
I don't know.
If you know something about them, then let's in the comments then.
I don't know.
The Red Scare and the McCarthy trials. American values imploded as fear of communism collided with freedom of thought and expression, and communist kind of became a
The Red Scare, I know what. Everybody was labeled as a communist in Russia, in America. Yeah, if you had a little different thought of communism, what's happening right now? Not it's what's happening right now. In America, is still labeling socialism as communism.
Really?
Yeah, although there are two different political ideologies, but yeah.
Both are totally.
If the
Sorry.
government has to give you something, that's communism.
Yeah,
Yeah, in America.
kind of makes.
values imploded as
Sense and
fear
all
of
makes
communism
sense
collided
at the
with
same
freedom
time.
of thought and expression, and communist kind of became a buzzword thrown around to describe anything people didn't like. Hollywood? Communist. Your next door neighbor's dog? Communist. When the grocery store cashier asks if you need a bag when you clearly can't carry 10 tubs of baconaise in your hands? Communist. But one area in particular where the US had an edge over the Soviet Union was in its espionage technology. In particular, U-2 spy planes flew across Russia carrying out surveillance from the skies. There was a nasty incident in 1960 though, when one was shot down and Khrushchev was furious. Who the hell is this? He's a high-altitude weather enthusiast who flew off course. Okay, that sounds plausible. Wait a minute. Why does he have a gun and a poison needle? Because he's a very naughty high-altitude weather enthusiast. But much to America's concern, the Soviet Union appeared to be ahead in the space race. Everyone freaked out when Russia launched the world's first satellite, and then they actually sent a man into space. Even worse, there also appeared to be a missile gap in the Soviets' favor, and Khrushchev was so confident that he even allowed the US to set up a technology exhibit in Moscow, attended by a certain Vice President Richard Nixon. Check this out. We have color TV. Yes, but we've been to space and can obliterate you with our massive nuclear arsenal. Check out this vegetable peeler. Tensions increased further when both sides upgraded their atomic bombs to hydrogen bombs. And after West Germany was allowed to join NATO in 1955, Khrushchev set up the Defensive Warsaw Pact, strengthening the military ties between the Soviet Union and its satellite states. In 1960, Americans decided they wanted a new president who would be tough on communism, so they elected John F. Kennedy. The Soviet Union was advancing its technology, but it was also bleeding its coffers dry, and all of the money was going towards the military, not the people. Life under communism was still as hard as ever, and Berlin remained a thorn in the Soviet side. The contrast between the economically prosperous West and the struggling East was clearer day by day, and East Berliners were still able to freely travel to the West. Now, many of them were deciding to stay there. Millions defected to West Germany via West Berlin, causing Eastern factories to lose workers and taking a heavy toll on the economy. Soviet leaders decided this couldn't continue any longer. First, Khrushchev.
Danonino, gustări mici, aliați uriași la joacă. Recomandat de Societatea Română de Pediatrie.
This is a
That's right there.
very interesting lesson. Both sides have propaganda, but it's nicer to enjoy some propaganda than other propaganda.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the difference was so big between the two
Both-
Berlins, let's say like
Yeah,
that.
actually, both countries were happy and
They
doing
were
well, and technologically, two nations were doing well, and both systems worked perfectly. But some people prefer jeans and
Yeah.
Coca-Cola,
And it was
and
obvious.
movies,
It's
and
obvious.
Rambo movies.
It's obvious that you will go where it's better. I mean, it's in the human nature. What you can say about that?
Even if you have the illusion of freedom, you still
Yes.
prefer the illusion of freedom.
Yes.
Yes.
This. Leave West Berlin, or else. Or else what? Or else I'll be really mad at you. Yeah, no, we're gonna stay. Listen, man, West Berlin is ours, East Berlin is yours. That's just how it is. Kennedy felt pretty good about his show of American resolve. But wait a second. Did you catch that? Let's replay it.
East Berlin is yours.
Uh-oh, Kennedy just told Khrushchev that the USA wouldn't interfere in what the Soviets did with their section of Berlin, so Khrushchev came up with a new idea. We're gonna build a wall, and it's gonna be a big, beautiful wall, and it's gonna keep out all the Mexicans. Oh, sorry, it's gonna keep in all the Mexicans. On August 13th, 1961, Berliners woke up to find their city divided into two, with barbed wire and guards blocking the border between East and West. Over time, a wall was constructed throughout the city. Families were torn apart. Thousands would risk their lives escaping over the wall, and hundreds would die trying. To the despair of Berliners, the West were unable to do anything about it. But the wall did put on full display the failure of the communist system. As Kennedy said, democracy is not perfect, but we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in. As part of the agreement between the two sides, US diplomats were still allowed to travel to East Berlin, but suddenly, East Berlin crossing guards started giving them the business, and Kennedy was like, nah-uh. In October, the US rolled tanks up to the crossing point at Checkpoint Charlie as a show of strength. The Soviets did the same, and the two were in a standoff. They stayed like that for 16 hours, and the world braced for nuclear Armageddon. Thankfully,
they
though,
were
Kennedy
so
called
close.
Khrushchev directly and was like,
Wait,
Yeah.
they literally stayed like that.
Yeah, you can see now.
For
see
16 hours?
Yeah, you can see the tanks at the end of the street and the other side.
Mafa.
Yeah. So this was a time when everything could.
Happen.
Yeah.
And meanwhile,
Everybody was waiting to push the red button.
the citizens who tried to cross were
Yeah, just
executed, and
Yeah, just because.
bad things happened, and they tried to construct a tunnel under the wall, and what else happened? Many
As
things happened.
somebody in Game of Thrones said, "You are not the king if you have to say you are the king."
Yeah.
Yeah. The system is not working if you have to build a wall to keep your people in.
Of course.
hey man, this is getting way too hot. How about you back your tanks up by an inch and we'll do the same? Sounds good. Okay, how about you back your tanks up by another inch and we'll follow suit? Alright, hey, you want to do another inch? And they both very slowly inched away from the apocalypse.
Oh my
Phew, let's hope
Yeah.
that's the biggest crisis of my presidency.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Oh my god. Okay, this
It
was
wasn't.
really funny.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I mean, for a serious situation like anywhere, but it's presented so funny.
It's really weird what what were they thinking? Yeah, we are the best. We have to show the Americans.
They both
Amer-
are the best.
Yeah, the Americans.
In
we
the
have
same
to
time.
show that the Soviets, dude, and the people suffer.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. But
so-
who counts
Yeah,
them?
for some idiots in charge.
It always happens.
Yeah. Always happens. So
Hope you like it, guys.
hope you like it, and yeah, you can the people from our viewers from the east of Europe could comment their stories if they know some stories from their grandparents about the communist period, and
Also, tell us if you like and what would you like to see on our channel. No matter if it's music, no matter if it's, I don't know, this thing.
yeah,
Be amazed, whatever. Anyway, can be anything
you
basically.
can suggest us anything you think we will find interesting. Yeah. So please like and subscribe. Don't forget to do that, please. It really
Please
helps
help
our
our
channel.
channel to grow.
Yeah. So see you next time for part 2. Bye.
Bye.